Good afternoon. My name is Neil Howell. As mentioned, I believe my task here this afternoon was to discuss creative fundraising and partnership opportunities. It's a little bit intimidating anytime a task involves the word creative, so I will do my best and leave it to y'all to decide if I have succeeded. In service to that goal, I'm going to try and do three things. I'll tell you a little bit about Flags of Valor so that you understand the unique perspective that I'm coming from, together with the implicit and attendant biases that anybody's perspective includes. I'll tell you then about perhaps a new lens to look at fundraising through, specific to the small business space, and finally provide one last, somewhat Machiavellian perspective to raising funds with private sector businesses. And so to the first of those goals, I work with Flags of Valor, a Virginia-based manufacturing company that hires U.S. military veterans to make American flags out of wood. We also make a slew of heritage projects that really celebrate what it means to be made in America. Again, believing that returning the manufacturing base to the United States is important, that veterans having sacrificed for their country deserve the opportunity to work in a place where they'll be paid well and treated with dignity and respect, and we can do that in our own small way. All that being said, we're a full-time team of 12, so we're a little bit alone and afraid out in that private sector world, and that really puts together the next two things I'm going to talk about, which is we are philanthropically minded, but we are not wealthy. We have purpose and intent, but we don't have a big checkbook. And so how do you find people like Flags of Valor in your area of effort and work with them in a productive way? So the first thing that I would offer is to look at businesses the same way you would look at individual donors, where you might have high net worth individuals who can donate. They can pull out a checkbook, they can give you $10 million, they can give you $250,000, they can give you $10,000. Whatever's a big deal to you, they can do that for you if you convince that one person. And that's wonderful. But most people are not high net worth individuals, and most people can't pull out their checkbook, but what they do have is time. And there have been some very exciting discussions today about finding ways in a marketplace to take advantage of that time for people that can't give you a ton of money, but they can give you their time, and that can be how they help you. Similarly speaking, in the private sector space, you've got your Fortune 500 companies, your Fortune 50 companies, and they have a budget line item that may be huge for philanthropic events that they've decided they're going to do either for altruistic or for non-altruistic means. But functionally, you don't care because the budget's there and you're going after it. That being said, 99.9% of businesses in the United States are small businesses. About half of economic activity is from a small business, and half of jobs are from small businesses. So if you're only tracking and trying to tackle down those big companies that have a line item for you, then you're leaving a lot of potential resources on the table. But when you look at those small businesses, which again are 99.9% of businesses out there, they don't have that budget line item. But what they do have is at least the presumption that they can do a thing in an economically efficient way. In our case, we make flags out of wood. It's very exciting. I'll talk to you more about it. But if you want to distill it down, we have an economic advantage to make flags out of wood and then sell them to customers. So instead of looking at a Flags of Valor and saying, hey, how much money can you give us? It's more about how can we partner with you using what we do well. Another example of this may be a baker. It may be very hard for a baker to give you $1,000 cash, but it may be comparatively easy for him to give you $1,000 worth of bread products for your event because he's figured out how to make bread in an economically efficient way. And so he can help you in that way instead of pulling out his checkbook. And so one of the ways that we've done that to make it a little bit more tangible is just donations in kind. But then you can take it a step further and find businesses where you can take their product, where again, they have that presumption of an economic advantage, and then personalize it to you. So the way that we do this is we partner with organizations, we'll donate a flag to them well in advance of their gala, their fundraiser, their silent auction. And then they'll have members of their organization or people who have benefited from their services sign that flag. And then it's no longer simply an American flag made by U.S. military veterans. It is signed by people who have benefited from Project Phoenix or any other organization. And then the person who's putting down funds to purchase that item for you isn't buying Flags of Valor flag. They're buying, in this case, a Project Phoenix flag. Tiffany, thank you for letting me bring you up a couple times. And so it's not about us anymore, it's about you. So the first idea is this lens of look at small businesses the way you look at the majority of individual donors out there, where they may not be able to give you something from their checkbook, but they can give you something from their time and something from their efforts and something from their labor. And then you can take that labor and personalize it to your organization in a way that is meaningful to your audience. Now, the second piece, I noted it was Machiavellian in part because it's fun to mention Niccolo and an Institute of Politics, but also because it gets at this nature of like, what is a private sector organization endeavoring to do? And there's a profit incentive there, and there's a business incentive there. And so then the question is, how do you partner with them in a way that extends their capacity to help you? Because even if you've already tapped out their budget line item for cash, and then you've tapped out their budget line item for in-kind deliveries and time, what are other ways that you can get them to help you? And it's by folding your organization on a particular initiative into something that benefits them as well. So an example of that in our case is that we're running 2 brands. One's called Combat Flags, one's called Flags of Valor. And if you're familiar with the branding world at all, a lot of it is about customer acquisition, because we know that we can make X number of cents per customer per email that we send out to our subscriber base. We know that if we go and talk to the folks at Meta and Facebook and Instagram, we're gonna have to pay X, Y, Z dollars for every new customer that we acquire. And it's all very tallied out, and it's all very expensive to bring new people in to get the word out there. But what does any organization have in the 501c3 or the community building world? You have an audience. And as a guy trying to build a brand, what do I want? I want an audience. I want people. And so if there is a way to connect your audience to my brand, then all of a sudden I'm working for you in addition to my altruistic incentive. I'm working for you out of a business incentive as well. And when you can align those incentives, you can generally get people to work harder for you than they would otherwise, especially if they've already had their tank tapped in terms of resources and in terms of time. So an example of that is we're working with Stop Soldier Suicide, who will soon be rebranded as Roger, in part because it's hard for Marines and sailors and airmen to call themselves a soldier when they're looking for help. And in part because there's an inherent negative context to the word suicide. And not everybody who needs help is suicidal. And so you remove those barriers, so I don't have to go call myself a soldier if I want to call them, and because it lowers that barrier of like what claim you're making to help. In any case, they're a cool organization, give them a look. So we're working with them to set up an initiative this fall in the vicinity of Veterans Day, where anybody who donates to their organization cash first will then get a gift from us. And so you're getting people who've decided that they care about veterans and protecting them and preventing suicide. And so they're already like the customers that I'm looking for, because there have to be somebody who wants to pay a premium for a product made by veterans. And then we're getting them to make a donation to a great organization doing great things. And then they enter my ecosystem and I'm giving them a gift. But from a private sector business perspective, like the value of that gift is a customer acquisition cost. And so if I can make this work, I can scale that ad infinitum. Because it's no longer a budget thing, it's tied to sales, it's tied to growth. And so if you can find a way to connect what your organization is doing and who your audience is with a profit motive of a small business, then there isn't a limit to the degree to which they can help you. Because the more it works, the more it works, and the more they want to do it. And so, in closing, Flags of Valor in Virginia, making American flags by the hands of American craftsmen, thinking about small businesses the way that you would think about an individual volunteer. Think about what they're economically good at and what they can do with their time and labor. And then finally, having done all of that, what is a way that you can actually partner with them in a way that is mutually beneficial? Because if it's beneficial to that private sector organization as well, then there is no limit to the degree to which they're willing to help you. So thank you for your time.